We welcome you into another episode of Inside Boxing Live, presented by PPV.com. I am Dan Canobio. He is the former world champion of 140 pounds and the world champion of the boxing media game, the world champion of making steaks and all sorts of great meals. Anything else I am missing? Chris Algieri.
I can draw, too. I didn't even mention that.
Bro, you sent me a picture once of something you drew, and I was blown away. Is that something you just hide? Is that something you're ashamed of? Because I was an art major myself, and then the day they made me draw a naked man, Life Drawing 1, and the guy went up on the table, and it was like a shriveled little snail, I said, I'm out.
Yeah, that's a tough day in the office. I think a lot of art majors lose it on that one.
Yeah. So you doodling, is that something you've always done?
Always. I was always good at art when I was a kid growing up, and even in college I took a couple art classes, art courses. But just drawing, like life drawing, like that kind of stuff, like drawing people, drawing bodies. That was always something that I was good at.
All right, now you're gonna have to show them off. You're gonna have to put them on Instagram.
People are gonna be asking now.
You can't just say that now.
I got some good action boxing photos that we can whip up.
I like that. Love that. We have a lot to get to on this program. We're going to talk to Sebastian Fundora. He is now the main event of a massive pay-per-view on March 30th, going up against Tszyu. You can watch that on ppv.com. It's a unification bout. It's a potential shot at Terence Crawford. I love catching up with Sebastian Fundora. He is an awesome guy, and he's very thoughtful as well. We'll talk about that whole card and all the changes there. We have some voicemails, too. Your voice can now be heard on Inside Boxing Live. Which
Dan, are we a call-in show now? Is this?
Well, it's not going to be live yet.
Is this a new era?
It is definitely a new era. This is the PPV.com era of Inside Boxing Live. This is the first week. I did my live chat yesterday, which was amazing. 11:30 a.m. every Wednesday. I'm going to be going live on the Inside Boxing Live YouTube page. There was like 1,500 people in there at one point. Some hearty debates. Wow. Hearty debates. Everyone wanted to talk about Canelo. But that's where you can interact with us live. The voicemails is going to be something where you can call at your own leisure. You can leave us a voicemail. You can talk to us through any issues you have in life.
And if they're good, they'll get played. And if they're whack, they won't.
A few whack ones.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Don't be whack, guys.
There are a few whack ones, but I got to screen them. But yeah, you can give us a call. Do I have the number? I'll put the number somewhere. Do I have the number? I think I have the number. I don't have the number. Wait, I do have the number. The number is 631-403-0859. That's how you can get involved with Inside Boxing Live. So we'll play some voicemails.
I like the area code 631.
I picked that. For a moment, the calls were going to my phone, and I was like, "This has to end immediately." No. It was like something backed up wrong on Google. I was like, no, there's no way. I love all of our listeners, but I don't want to be getting phone calls about David Benavidez at midnight. But that's all anyone wanted to talk about. That's where we'll start today's show. Canelo Alvarez faces off with Jaime Munguia. They have a beautiful press conference. Some would say it was boring. I would say it was your traditional boxing press conference between two guys that respect each other. They faced off. It was pretty cool in the fact that there was a lot of Mexican traditions. They had a piñata. It was at the Beverly Hills. They had great food. It seems like they're going to really use that angle, as they should. This is an all-Mexican clash on Cinco de Mayo. Excited for it. No one's really discussing that fight right now. We will as we get closer, and we will on this show as well. All anyone wants to talk about is David Benavidez. That's all he was asked about afterwards. And I talked about this on the live stream yesterday. When you go to these press conferences, they don't ask you up on the stage about David Benavidez to Canelo. They'll only ask you about Munguia. It's when Canelo goes over to the scrums, where I live, in the scrums with my other media members, the Fight Hubs, Daily Secbacks, you name it out there. That's when we start pestering Canelo with, when are you going to fight Benavidez? When are you going to fight Benavidez? And then Canelo just went off. I got to ask you, what are your thoughts on Canelo? Not exactly saying I want $150 million, but kind of just like throwing that out there.
I mean, listen, there's a lot of ways to say you don't want to fight a guy, and Canelo is really checking all the boxes at this point, because you can just say, like, oh, I'm not going to fight guys in whatever group that he's from. I don't want to fight those guys, so I'm not fighting that guy, just like when he said I wasn't fighting Mexicans, and currently fighting a Mexican coming up in May. Or you throw a crazy number. That was always the move, right? Whenever you don't want to fight somebody, you just throw out a crazy number. But then you kind of think also, like, when he throws out a crazy number like that, we're in a new era now. There is Saudi. These numbers can be made. When you say 150 to 200 million, like literally when he said that, I was like, this guy's out of his mind. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not. So when you push this narrative that makes it look like, I don't want to fight this guy. I don't want to fight this guy. I don't want to fight this guy. Maybe if you threw like 200 million out there, and the Prince gets word of that and produces 200 million. And Benavidez, like he'll fight for a ham sandwich at this point. He doesn't care. He just wants to fight like a true warrior. No disrespect to him. Just saying, like, that's what kind of guy he is. He wants to fight. Yeah, it's like it almost doesn't sound crazy anymore. Canelo doing the business move things that he's been doing for quite some time now. That's me being optimistic about this fight actually being a possibility, because a lot of people are just going to be like, this guy don't want to fight nobody. You don't want to fight him at all.
Pitchforks were out.
I think that's really what's going around.
The pitchforks were out after Canelo said this. I myself was like, did he just say that? Did he demand 150 to 200 million? That's like, no one's ever got that type of money up front. And then I needed like a few hours. I needed a few days to kind of really let this sink in and figure out what was Canelo's main goal during this press conference and during this moment out there, because he's a smart guy. I mean, he's a businessman, and he knows what he's saying. And you might see the broken English or whatever, and look at that as like a weakness, or he doesn't really know. He knows exactly what he's saying and he's doing. A lot of people are caught up on the 150 to 200 million. He didn't say, I demand 200 million. He said, if a promoter wants to throw that type of money, I'll fight him tomorrow. I read that as His Excellency Turki Al-Shalik. He looked right into the camera and said, hey, what's up, bro? Got 150 million for me?
I know you do.
Even if it goes down to 100 million, even if it goes down to 75 million for this type of fight, I think the Saudis would do that. You have to ask for that. Anyone would do that. Canelo is just doing Canelo things. He's the A-side. He's the man. So ask for that money. Now, I could see how fans would look at that and say, come on, that's him pricing himself out, because let's be honest, there's a lot of ways to duck a fight. Mm-hmm. You can just not answer the call. You can just flat out say no, or you can outprice yourself. So a lot of people were fixated on the price there, and it wasn't exactly a demand, and it's also something that he should be doing because he is on a one-fight deal. He is fighting fight to fight, and there is a massive whale out there in the Middle East with tons of cash and would love to bring Canelo over there. I would be shocked if Canelo doesn't fight in Saudi Arabia at some point at the end of his career. So that's one point. The other part of this, Chris, is another part that fans aren't really looking at. They look at the 150 to 200 million. It's a spicy headline. It's everywhere. How about the fact where he said, what does David Benavidez offer me besides 25 extra pounds on fight night? And to me, that is the main reason this fight is not getting made. It is because Canelo looks at Benavidez as a weight bully. Eddie Reynoso looks at him as a weight bully. He knows that on fight night he could come in anywhere between 185, 190, 195. So I'll ask you, Chris, if this fight happens, Canelo, they find the money to do the fight, which they can. Would you be upset if Benavidez accepts some types of clauses, like a weight clause, like we saw in Gervonta versus Ryan?
Yes, and you know why? Because Canelo said he was going to fight a cruiserweight. So, absolutely not. I hate weight clauses. I hate that.
They should be illegal.
You're getting paid big time money. It should be illegal because it's very dangerous. I agree. But listen, if you want $100 million to fight this guy, which honestly I don't think this is a $100 million fight. If they're splitting $100 million, even that's crazy. Honestly, if say Canelo gets 75 and Benavidez gets 25, I don't think that fight is really worth that. But
it won't make that. They'll take a bath on it. Saudi.
100%. But I would be happy for David. That'd be awesome for him to get that kind of fight, that kind of money. But Yeah, no. If you're making that kind of money and you're gonna put a stipulation on the weight what the guy can weigh in fight day, that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. If you get that money, if this is some master plan, like we're surmising, like he's got this mega mind, cap on, and he's developing this plan to make $100 million, and you get that done, do not put a weight clause on this young man. That's crazy.
I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying he would.
No, me either.
Just throwing it out
there. But if he did. But that's another thing. When the weight thing came, the money thing, initially I was like, oh man, just like you. There's no way he doesn't want to fight him. Then I'm thinking about it. Oh well, no, okay, we got his excellency out there. This could happen. But then the weight thing, and I was like, that's not a good look. Especially combining the two. Because now you're really just showing like, I don't want to fight this guy because you're willing to fight a cruiserweight. Who's willing to fight a guy?
But the Makabu
who's going to weigh in at 200 pounds, which means he's going to weigh in. He was going to be in the ring 210. Maybe even more. So the weight thing is that's I take a lot of issue with that one.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's going to ask for that, but that seems to be the major
because
hang-up.
He's weight bullied a bunch of guys in his career. So let's stop on that.
That was a big discussion too. Is the weight bully thing? It's like, he fought Amir Khan, much bigger than him. Josecito Lopez, much bigger than him. The thing with Benavidez is he's been making the weight consistently since 2020 when he had the snafu on the scale. Not making excuses for David Benavidez. It was during the COVID era. Guys were freaking cutting weight in the hotel lobbies. They had 30 minutes of gym time.
Days.
Horrible. You can also bring up him losing the titles from drug use, and are we going to hold it over David Benavidez' head for the rest of his career?
Actually go together because obviously there was a lack of discipline going on. There was outside of I think he's a different guy now.
Right? Are we going to hold that over his head for the rest of his career?
I don't think about that at all anymore.
Like he's making the weight now. I haven't heard anything. Maybe you have. Have you heard? I haven't heard anything. Fight weeks where Benavidez is struggling. Man, he hasn't gone back to the scale. 0.5 over. He's making the weight. So he is a bona fide 168 pounder. Like he can blow up to whatever. Canelo's blown up on fight nights. Plenty of times.
Absolutely. Almost every time. Almost every time. He still cuts weight for 68, guys. He's not. Yeah. He's a big guy. He carries a lot of weight. And the way that they design their strategy and their protocols for making weight and then stepping into the ring, he's gaining a lot of weight between the weigh-in and the fight, even at 68.
The IBF title will be on the line in this fight. It's an undisputed fight at 168 pounds. They have that next day weigh-in, right? Don't they have that thing where you can't be more than 10 pounds over?
Which is insane. No, it's 10. It's 10 pounds. And when it's
so will that be enforced? Will there be
absolute number? Which is crazy.
If it's not enforced in the contract by Canelo, will it be enforced by the IBF?
Honestly, that's never come up. I've never heard anything about that.
I remember Danny Jacobs had to do it.
Yeah, and he.
You were there.
For Triple G, and he was a couple pounds over, literally like a pound and a half or 2 pounds.
Like 180.
It was
no,
he had to be
170.
No, it was. I'm
thinking
170, right? Because it was fighting at middleweight. He had to be 170, and he was like 171.8 or something like that. And then we were like, well, no. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to make him cut weight the morning of the fight? A lot of guys do. Most guys do. And I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to have him strong for fight night. And he was. And he put on a great performance. So
yeah, that was almost like I got the alert on Facebook, which is the only reason I look at Facebook is for the memories. I think it was March 18th, Garden. Golovkin versus Jacobs. And then...
because I called Mick Conlan's pro debut March 17th in the Garden the night before.
Isn't that when McGregor showed up?
Yeah, McGregor showed up. I was calling with Bruce Beck. That was the first card I ever did for ESPN Top Rank.
Wow.
And that opened up the doors for me from then on.
Thank you. Whoever hired Chris for that night, that's why you're sitting in this chair right now.
Well, we can thank Bruce Beck.
Bruce Beck's the man. New York legend.
Yes.
Awesome guy.
That's my commentator mentor.
That guy's the man. He's such a great guy. I forgot where I was going here. Yeah, but Canelo was super ornery. He was spicy at this weigh-in, this press conference. He was asked, someone brought up, Mike Tyson said you should fight Benavidez. He goes, well, Mike Tyson should be sober. Someone brought up Andre Ward says you should fight him, and he went off on Andre Ward. So his attitude was a little strange to me for a guy like he was acting like, why are you asking me about Benavidez when I'm here from Munguia? Which, he's got to understand, I'm sure he does, that he's the man. You're the guy. You're the cash cow. We're always going to want the next one. And it led me to believe, I wonder if you agree with this. Canelo has fought everyone. got a great resume. That's non-debatable. But the public has really only demanded 2 fights out of him. Golovkin and now Benavidez. The other ones were not demanded. The other ones, I would not gonna say carefully picked, but the other ones were part of a campaign at a weight class to become undisputed. The Cotto fight was at Canelo weight. The other ones, outside of like maybe Mayweather, but Mayweather, that was more on Mayweather picking it. Lara, he kind of listened to the fans there, but he wasn't the Canelo that he is now. Mm-hmm. And then there was Trout, which was another one, but that's not Canelo of now. But the fans demanding, the only time I could think of another fight where fans are like asking him everywhere he goes is Golovkin. So to me, it's just Golovkin and Benavidez. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, he's been moving on his own accord ever since. I mean, all the fights that he's been picking. I mean, even like the Kovalev fight. I think nobody demanded that. No one thought you were going to jump up to 175. And
no one demanded Bivol, and that came back and bit him in the ass.
That was in his own. That was again on his own accord. That was a bad idea. I'm trying to think of the fights that he had. Well, actually, all those Matchroom guys, all those British, no one ever demanded any of those fights.
Right, those are the ones that were part of the 168 move.
Yeah,
like
no one
Callum
ever
Smith,
demanded
B.J. Saunders.
I guess Plant, because he's
But Plant had a belt.
Well, yeah, and that's one. It's like, well, people are like, well, I mean, go get that belt. But yeah, I think you're right. I think Triple G for sure, multiple times, and then, but that took forever. He aged Triple G out. That third fight sucked.
Yeah, the first two, I think Golovkin was like 35.
Yeah.
What would you say? Golovkin was at his height in like 2014, 2015? 30. He got a late start. I mean, he was pretty much fighting he was anonymous, and then HBO picked him up, I think, when he was like 30.
Yeah,
when he fought Proska.
He was tearing through guys in 2014.
2014, right? That's when I first heard of him.
Yeah, he was fighting often. He was fighting the Garden all the time.
Then they put him on that Monaco card against Proska.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's his first TV fight, but I heard about him before that. There's a guy who talks like Borat, but he punches like Tyson. Mm-hmm. I was like, who is this guy? And the HBO puts him on. But yeah, I think that Canelo, this is what, you're the man. So of course we're going to demand of you to fight the top guys, and it's for a mandatory status. Like there's some legality here, even though it's complete fugaziness of boxing commissions and of these organizations. Anything else from that Canelo thing? Benavidez responded today on Instagram. I don't know if you saw this. Pretty much said, Canelo, where are your nuts? He said, if I'm not worth, if I'm nothing, this is what he said. If I'm nothing to you, then why are you asking for $150 million? When you get the $150 million, if you got any money left over, go buy a pair of nuts.
That's A1 trash talk. That's A1 trash.
I like it.
I like it too.
Like we said for a while here, the public is on the side of Benavidez. Canelo, it's crazy, man. The tide has turned.
I don't think it's so much the side of Benavidez. It's the side of the sport of boxing.
Yes.
That's the fight that we deserve. Listen. You cannot hold all the belts when you have a willing and deserving contender right outside. We'll sign the contract tomorrow and probably deal with a lot of stipulations just to get the fight done. Yeah, I know. This is for the sport of boxing. It's one of the biggest fights that can be made in the sport today, and one that has been marinated, I think, perfectly at this point. This is one of those fights. If this happens in a year and a half, 2 years,
yeah,
it's not going to be the same. If this happens in the next year, woo, man, it's one of the best fights that can be made.
Yeah, Canelo, I think he's definitely on the back nine, and he's looking at, I don't have to fight anyone. I don't have to do anything because his legacy is set. He's going to the Hall of Fame. He's a 4-division world champion, highest paid fighter of this era. He's going to Canastota. And when you write the story of Canelo, if he doesn't fight Benavidez, it's going to be in his story. It will be towards the middle, maybe towards the bottom. It's not going to be the top line. No. That's how he's thinking. So it's like, all right, you want me to fight the next big one? You guys want me to fight this guy? I want a big, huge bag, which I think he'll get. And we got to figure out the weight. He didn't say any of these things, but he's dancing around them, and he's putting out these feelers for money, and he's also putting out these feelers for this guy is going to come in at 190 on fight night, and we're going to have to do something about that.
My Hollywood script idea is looking less and less likely.
What's that?
That I had this idea that Canelo was maximizing his deals right now, making as much money as he can, and then really going out on a big one with the Benavidez fights, and just goes true Mexican warrior and goes, let's go, blood and guts war, win, lose, or draw. This is going to be my last fight because of how much money he's going to make. And he goes out and he does the damn thing, whether he wins or just fights his ass off, whatever. Like, I think that from a legacy standpoint, I mean, that puts the icing on the cake. Whether he wins or loses, I think it's important that he fights Benavidez.
Well, maybe he's asking for the money because this is like, when guys get that golden parachute, like these executives, these CEOs. And
he said, I'm going to fight for 5 more years. That's not happening. He's not fighting for 5 more years.
I can't believe he's 33. Like, I was looking up yesterday, and like
he's an old 33.
He's been around for so long.
He's an old 33.
Yeah, he'll be fighting Jaime Munguia on Cinco de Mayo, and you can watch the fight on ppv.com. It is the most reliable, the most convenient, and quite frankly, the best way to watch and order big-time fights.
Dan, do you know anybody who's going?
We'll be there, Chris.
Look at that.
We will be boots on the ground Cinco de Mayo weekend. I am excited for this fight. I know we're spending a lot of time talking about Benavidez. I am very excited for Canelo versus Munguia. I think it's going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be a great fight. We'll be there. I know you're going to be watching it at home, so you're going to want to be watching it with ppv.com. You can stream it to your tablet. You can stream it to your phone. You can take it on the road with you. I've watched fights at bars. I've watched fights at bachelor parties. You can obviously...
It's the only way I watch pay-per-views at this point is ppv.com. I mean, I've literally been texting with people, and they're like, hey, my stream's all messed up. How's yours doing? I'm like, mine's fine. I'm on ppv.com. You're on that other stream. I don't know what you're using, but mine's good.
We got clean streams over at ppv.com. Strong,
very strong stream.
Strong streams. And not only that, live interactive chat on March 30th for the Tszyu versus Fundora main event, Rolly versus Pitbull. I'll be in the chat. Chris will be in the chat. Jim Lampley will be in the chat. Lance Pugmire.
Jim.
That's a freaking murderer's row of us chatting it up with you. So go to ppv.com, order the fight. No subscriptions, ever. Just order the fights that you want and join us on beginning March 30th, and then all throughout big-time pay-per-views. Next topic is the pay-per-view on March 30th. This was the news earlier in the week. The boxing news changes, 24-hour news cycle, maybe even less. Keith Thurman,
this one.
Right, Monday. This was the news on Monday. Keith Thurman, you are out. Sebastian Fundora, you are in. He elevates from the first card of the night where he was fighting Serhii Bohachuk to the main event to be fighting Tim Tszyu. Not only that, it is a unification bout because Fundora was fighting for the vacant WBC title against Bohachuk, and obviously Tim Tszyu is the champion with the WBO. To add even more intrigue to this main event, which I think is a better fight, is Terence Crawford has exercised the clause with the WBO and says that he is interested in fighting the winner of this fight. There'll be a small window afterwards for them to negotiate. So on top of it being a unification bout now, it is now a fight that we could see Tim Tszyu potentially win and then fight Terence Crawford in the summer. I'll ask you now, Chris, do you think that Tszyu versus Fundora is a better fight than Tszyu versus Thurman?
I certainly think it's a more meaningful fight because Tszyu is the WBO world champion, and they would not sanction the Keith Thurman matchup. So that was not a title fight. Now we have a title fight, and then also they bring in the WBC goes, well, Fundora was going to fight for our title against Bohachuk. Obviously, Tim Tszyu is worthy to fight to contend for our title. Let's bring that one on too. Now we have a unification bout. It's made the fight that much more important. In terms of styles, I actually think that Thurman was going to there was going to be more of a puzzle for Tim Tszyu to figure out.
Yeah.
With Fundora, you know the puzzle. The puzzle, he's 6'5". He's. I mean, I hate using the word freakishly, but he's freakishly tall for 154. 6'5". He throws a ton of punches. He doesn't use his height, though. He's going to be there. There's a lot of holes in his defense because he is an offensive guy. He's very offensive. And there's one thing about long arms, everyone at home. If you're not fighting at length, long arms in the inside can hurt you because there's a longer distance for you to get that back to home. So he's got a lot of opportunities for Tszyu with the shorter arms and who's a good inside fighter and a pressure fighter to find that way home. So I think stylistically, Thurman was more of a puzzle for Tszyu, and it was going to be interesting to have, to see what Tszyu had left and to see what to see what Thurman had left and to see what Tszyu could do with someone with so much experience. But with Fundora, it's just a fun fight because Fundora is going to come and fight. He's going to meet you in the center of the ring. Tszyu's not going to have to find him, and they're going to trade. I think for as long as the fight lasts, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be fun. I think it'll be more of a fun fight than the Thurman fight. But I think from a stylistic perspective, strategy standpoint, this is going to be an easier fight psychologically, mentally, strategically for Tim Tszyu.
What about the fact that he's 6'6" southpaw on 10 days' notice now? I saw that Michael Fox, who is 6'4" southpaw, who fights at 147. Tszyu flew him in immediately.
Smart.
Fox, very smart. Posted it to his social media. So that was smart. In terms of the game plan now changing for Tszyu, we're going to talk to Sebastian Fundora in just a second. I don't think much has changed for Fundora because Boachuk and
Boachuk's tough, man. That was a hard fight
similar
too.
size, similar size, like not much of a disparity, like the difference between Thurman and Fundora. It's definitely on Tszyu now to make the big time adjustments in this fight. It's on Fundora that he's facing a much, a better fighter.
It is and it isn't because Fundora does not fight like a southpaw. He just fights from a southpaw position. So the issue there is going to be dealing with where the power punches are coming from. Because that's the thing with southpaws, the punches just come from different angles, and you have to be aware of them. And it's tough, and that's why you always bring in southpaw sparring because you get the groove that movement. It's like, all right, there's that right hook, there's that right hook, there's that right hook. When a lot of times you're safe going to that side when you're fighting an orthodox fighter, where with a southpaw you're not, because they can still hit you with a power shot in positions that are differently than the opposite stance. So a lot of it's just going to be him adjusting to the mindset that, like, okay, I got to look out for the right hook on this side, I got to look out for the straight left hand and looping shots from here. But the idea that Fundora being a southpaw is that much of a difference, I don't think it really is, because he does not utilize that stance in a way that would give him an advantage, other than just having punches come from angles that his opponent may not be used to. So I don't think it's that big of an adjustment for Tszyu. I need to look into kind of his history about how he's done with southpaws in the past, but I don't think that's a big deal just because of the way Fundora fights.
He hasn't fought a southpaw in quite a while. The knock on Tszyu before this recent run is that he's a little chinny. Like, he got dropped by Terrell Gaucher. He got dropped earlier in his career. Fundora can punch, man. One thing about Fundora, he can crack, and he's willing to stand in there and trade. Doesn't jab at all. Doesn't use his length at all, which makes for fun TV fights. But it really, I'm interested to see how he deals with Tszyu, and I'm also interested to see how Tszyu makes that really quick 10-day adjustment to fighting this giant in there. In terms of the replacement, I think it's the best case scenario outside of Thurman, because immediately when I saw this news, I was like, oh no, they're going to scrap this entire card. They're going to scrap this entire card, and we're going to be out. The fans are going to be out. Everyone's going to be out. But Sebastian Fundora was on this card, 154 pounds, a guy that has fought on Showtime in main events numerous times. Fans know who he is. So I think good job by Fundora for taking the fight, number one. Good job by PBC for having a guy ready to go. And having a 154-pounder on the card already. But for Tszyu, this is nuts. Tszyu went from a non-title fight versus Keith Thurman to a unification bout versus a 6'4" southpaw with the chance to fight Terence Crawford. And that happened in a 24-hour span.
Yeah, I didn't want to even touch on the Crawford thing until we gave Fundora his just due. But yeah, that's another thing. The implications of this fight are huge. I think either way, I think if Fundora wins, he's going to get Crawford next because it makes so much more sense. And we've been talking about Crawford coming down. Like, listen, I always thought the Tszyu fight made sense for a lot of reasons. 54, you get a fourth weight class, world title fight. The guy's young and budding. He's possibly beatable now. I think Tszyu's really good, and I think he's going to be around for a while. So getting him young is probably a good move for a guy like Crawford. But even if it's Fundora, Crawford now has an opportunity to pick up 2 belts, unified at 154. So he is undisputed in 2 weight classes, then be unified in another weight class. I mean, it just adds to the legacy so much. And I don't care how tall the guy is. I don't care how young the other guy is. Like it would be a great opportunity for Crawford to jump at 154 and take that fight rather than jumping up to 160 to fight Chris Eubank. That's a tough fight. Well, fighting 68 to go fight Canelo. Of course, obviously the money's there for that, but this one just makes that much more sense.
Yeah, I'm excited that Crawford got involved in this. I'm excited to see his name attached.
Crawford's being smart, man.
To this man, yeah, very smart.
He's making mastermind moves.
Absolutely, he is. I'm excited to see his name attached to this main event. I just want to see him fight. And Tszyu, should he win, he is the favorite in this fight. Tszyu versus Crawford is a fight that I've been calling for. Is a fight that you would agree with. The fight that it just makes sense. That's a fun fight.
It's a good fight.
At 154 pounds this summer, you could do it in the
and
early
a tough
fall.
fight for Crawford. That's not like a guarantee for Crawford, by any means.
Right, it'll be one of the younger opponents he's faced and one of the livest and one of the healthiest going into the fight. Tszyu also mentioned Spence at some point. I don't know how Spence mixes in at 154. I'm not willing to write off Errol Spence just yet. I think he comes back and potentially fights someone at 154 and gets his name in there. But I think 154 is emerging. It's always been a fun division, but now we're trying to see some movement where Crawford enters the fray. Spence gets back in there. Maybe some of the guys at 147 move up, and we start to see some bigger names at 154, where a couple of years in the past it was a lot of parity, but it wasn't the biggest names at 154, like the Julian Williams, who was some of the other guys at 154 that were all fighting round robin, knocking each other off left and right.
Lara was around for a
right,
while.
Those guys,
Jarrett Hurd.
That guy came and went.
Yeah, he had a tough run.
He fought like with his head first, so he disappeared fast.
Yeah, that style doesn't last, man. You can't get hit that much, just walk guys down. But Jarrett Hurd, Lara,
Julian
Charlo,
Williams won a title.
Julian Williams,
that guy. Who was the guy that Charlo knocked out to the body, and he almost
Jason
I thought he died.
Yeah, Jason Rosario. Yeah, he was from down in Florida.
Dude, 154.
He completely fell apart too.
154 for a while. Like, that was fun. Like, that was a division where guys were just knocking each other off. They weren't the biggest names, so we were able to make the fights, and Showtime pretty much had them all.
It's always been kind of a spotty division. Like, there's talent, and it's fun. There's not a ton of eyes on there. Guys are coming in, coming out. Like, I remember, Felix Trinidad, stopping off at 154, blasting out a few guys and then going up to 60 for the middleweight tournament. It's one of those divisions. It's kind of like a
stopover.
Yeah, it's like a lily pad for a frog. I'm gonna jump over. His 40s was like that too, oftentimes. So,
the 40 is the best division now, and 54, it's pretty historic. I mean, it's not doesn't have a ton of history, but there's a lot of big names have went through 40 and 54. But the updated card now on PPV.com, March 30th. You got Tszyu-Fundora main event. You got Rolly versus Pitbull, which
always been a great fight. Always been a great fight.
Yes, we'll talk about that fight at length next week's episode. Lara versus Zarafa, which, with Lara, hasn't fought in years and is changed up his style where he's a little more fan-friendly. Julio Cesar Martinez versus Angelo Cordova now gets bumped up to the main card.
Awesome.
And Elijah Garcia, who is a really good-looking middleweight, who is rising the ranks at middleweight, could easily contend for a title this year, is fighting Kyron Davis. This is the free Amazon portion. And then Serhii Boachuk is fighting Brian Mendoza. Brian Mendoza was training alongside Tim Tszyu, who he fought last year in preparation to be a replacement.
Dude,
cool story. Rewarded him.
That's a great little Easter egg out of this whole thing, man. I love that. The Brian Mendoza getting a shot. Mendoza's one of those guys who's super durable. He's never been stopped. He got beat by Tszyu and he was outclassed a bit. He was getting outboxed by Fundora thoroughly and then starches him. He can punch. He's tricky. He's very, very durable. Serhii Boachuk he's an
100% knockout rate.
Oh, he is a MFer, man.
I was really looking forward to him versus Fundora.
He's a destroyer. He has that that loss against Brandon Adams, who's a really tricky guy anyway.
I remember him.
Yeah, you can't knock him for that loss. I think he's been on like a 6-fight KO tear since then, stepping up in class a little bit each time out. So that's a very fun fight. Very interesting opener too. You mentioned Elijah Garcia. We were in Vegas when he fought, and he had a breakout performance fighting another tough young guy on the undercard of Canelo and Charlo. He's good, man. He really impressed me that last fight, so looking forward to seeing him again. So yeah, and I mean, top to bottom, it's actually a really good card.
Yeah, Elijah Garcia is like a guy that could Like considering how bad middleweight is, he's 16-0 with 13 knockouts. He beat what's his name? Like Renez. I can't pronounce his name. Jose Armando Resendez.
Resendez, yeah.
Yeah, he was on. That was on the Canelo. That was on the Canelo Charlo card. Yeah, he's good. He's really good. He's like, I think he's up next at middleweight, because middleweight is just not the best division right now. Yes,
I could see the winner of Lara Zarafa and Elijah Garcia next. That would make a lot of sense.
Would old lion versus young lion. But the main event is set. It is now Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora. We caught up with Sebastian Fundora. Here he is. We're with Sebastian Fundora right now. You can watch him on March 30th, ppv.com, when he takes on Tszyu. Late replacement, main event, unification bout. Sebastian, how quickly did you say yes to this fight, and where were you when you got the call?
Our promoter, Samson, called Sunday afternoon. Called my father. He said, we have bad news, but it could turn to good news. Thurman got hurt with his bicep injury, and they're looking for a replacement. Would you be willing to fight Tszyu the same day, same place? And he told my dad, think about it, because it's a big decision. But my dad hung up. We talked about it right away. We both smiled like, oh no, heck no, we're not letting this opportunity pass. 10 minutes later, my dad called back our promoter Samson, and he said, let's do it.
Awesome. 10 minutes. That's all it took. I love that. That's what fans come to expect from you.
Yeah, I guess our promoter sometimes calls us a kamikaze, but I don't see it that way. We train hard and we're ready for everything.
Or why does he call you kamikaze?
Because our decisions don't seem on the outside of our team. They don't seem well thought out, but we train hard for a reason, and we're ready for this opportunity.
I mean, this to me seems like a no-brainer. I mean, you were scheduled to fight for WBC with Sergey Bohachuk, a fight that I thought was going to steal the show, but this seems like a no-brainer. This is the main event. This is, a live on pay-per-view. This is a chance to fight Terence Crawford. Has that all processed? Like, describe the last couple of days for you.
It's been big, and this caliber of fight is big. I've been headlined before on Showtime and all that before, but this one's the first Amazon Prime Video, and this is pay-per-view, and it's for 2 belts. I haven't even became world champion yet. My sister's become one 6 months ago, but God said, you know what? If you're gonna become world champion, you're gonna have to pass your sister with 2 belts. She's right next to me.
Love that. Yeah, but, you can one up her, right? You can one up her so easily by winning on Saturday the 30th. You'll have 2 belts, and then she'll have to go for unification.
Yep. She'll have to, and she'll probably get it. But for now, I'm gonna enjoy that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of people, or what I've been seeing, is like, oh God, Tszyu, now he has to fly in southpaws that are 6'6". He has to change up his entire game plan. Sebastian fights completely different than Keith Thurman. He's a completely different height. How about you on your side? You're preparing for Sergey Bohachuk. What has your preparations been like in the last couple of hours for Tszyu?
We kept it the same. Bohachuk is a taller fighter, 6'1". Tszyu being 5'8", is a shorter one, but he's still right-handed. He's still an aggressive power puncher. Bohachuk was all that, just taller.
I like that. Yeah, so it should be. That's what I kind of figured. It's more of a different game plan for Tszyu, because you're so much taller and a southpaw, and you fight completely different than Thurman. Do you see any weaknesses in Tszyu?
I feel like we'll just have to solve that in the ring. I don't really want to say anything because, of course, it's not too much time to fix it anyways, but I like to keep my game plan to myself.
Have you ever been a late replacement on this short notice?
I never been a late replacement. I don't consider myself a replacement, but, I guess it works. It works in this
by definition
situation. Yeah. It seems negative to me, but I understand what everybody's saying.
This is a great thing. Like, I immediately, when I saw the news, I thought, put Sebastian in the main event. He's already on the card. He's a guy that fans are accustomed with. Yes, he did coming off of a loss, but if you take a look at that fight, you were winning. I had you up on the cards against Mendoza before you get caught. Everyone gets caught in boxing. I don't look at it as a replacement either. Just a term that you have to use. But my
Yes,
reason
of
I
course.
brought it up because would you rather prepare? Would you rather go into a fight knowing who your opponent is for 8 weeks, or this type of moment where it's like, all right, I got 10 days. I can't really think too much about it. Boom, let's just move.
Of course, in a perfect world, we have a full camp. But right now, again, God gives you opportunity, you have to take it. Something this big, you have to take it. It could be anybody. Those two belts on the line. Heck yeah, I'm gonna say yeah.
Two belts on the line, and also a potential shot at Terence Crawford. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah. Oh, of course. So I met Terence Crawford in the International Boxing Hall of Fame in Canada, and we took a picture together, and he's like up to my shoulders. He's a cool guy, very cool guy. But of course, him, Spence, before they even fought, I was thinking about those guys. So it's if we can get that fight, that'll be one of the biggest fights in boxing.
You brought up that he's up to your shoulder. Are you now prepared for like a whole new audience, whole new? It's a lot of eyeballs on this pay-per-view to now be like, oh my god, this guy's 6'5", 6'6". He's 154 pounds. Like I'm over that, and most boxing fans are over it. We look at you as a blood and guts type of fighter, but now you're opening yourself up to a whole new audience, and they're gonna be like, oh my god, he's so tall, he's so skinny. Like, are you like that's gonna be a whole nother thing now, right?
That it's gonna be all over again. Last fight, the fight before that, when I fought Lubin, it's you always get a new group of people. I fought an Australian before. I fought an Olympian Australian
Oh wow.
when on my 10th fight, I think, or something like that, and we beat him. We beat him, and we got a lot of Australian fans, a lot of Australian fans. So maybe, but it's the whole world. This is a pay-per-view fight. This is a big fight, a big,
Yeah.
big fight. The first for PBC this year. So
Mhm.
it's going to be good.
That's awesome. Last time we talked, or one of the times we talked, you talked about how you struggle to make weight, but not in the way that you would think. The fact that you have to eat more. Like you walk around at 150, you're eating cheeseburgers, you're eating omelets just to get to 154. What are you walking at these days? And is your metabolism still off the charts?
My metabolism is still off the charts, but it's not as fast as before. Of course, I'm getting older.
We're all getting older,
Uh,
folks.
yeah, we are getting older, but it's still not hard. It's still not hard. I don't plan on. Someone asked me earlier if I would go down to 47 to fight. I wouldn't do that anymore. That's for sure. But 54 is not a problem still.
So heavyweight, that's out of the picture too.
Well, who knows? Who knows? Maybe I start eating more omelets and more hamburgers.
All right, let's go to some fan questions. There was a lot of them. Tremaine wants to know, what are some things you can do similar to what you did in the Lubin fight that you can do to beat Tim Tszyu?
uh, Maybe put that same amount of pressure. I feel like we throw a lot more punches than everybody in the division. So to keep up that pace, just in a smart rhythm.
Ken Rivera wants to know if you plan on making any financial investments in the near future.
Yeah, that's more personal things. I bought my house recently. Paid it off completely.
Wow.
But it's boxing now. Everything else is just extra now. So, but we're very
does your
comfortable.
house have
You know
a
what?
does your
You know
house
what?
have a
Maybe
backyard?
I have 20 acres.
20 acres?
I have 20 acres.
Okay, yeah. So
My
you've
next
invested
investment, maybe
properly.
my next investment will probably be 2 donkeys. I want to get some donkeys. But
Okay.
that again, those are personal things. I don't know if anybody will understand that, but it's just to
I mean,
have.
if I had the means, I would have a donkey. I live in New York City. I really can't do that. If I had 20 acres, I'd have myself a donkey. Courtney Love wants to know, can you hoop?
I cannot hoop. I cannot hoop. I played basketball maybe for a month in high school. Those shorter kids were taking the ball from me. They're tugging on my shorts. I thought that wasn't allowed. I was like, this is not a contact sport. I wanted to punch him, but of course you can't do that in basketball.
You dunk. You can dunk though, right?
I don't know. I haven't, I can grab the rim. I can grab the rim, no problem.
You've never
But
dunked in your life?
last time I tried, I never dunked in my
Oh
life.
my God.
Yeah. I could probably do it now. I feel a
Okay.
lot stronger in my legs and all that, so I could probably do it now, but I
All
don't
right.
plan on doing it.
What did you learn in the last fight with Mendoza?
It was more of a reminder. Keep your hands up. obviously the number one thing, and protect yourself at all times. I got a little lazy and I paid for it.
Yeah. Let's keep it going here. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Mm, yeah, I guess. Yeah, it does. You know, it has like, it depends. Meat and bread, you know, depends how you want to eat it. People say you could say the same thing with let's say um what are those like the Subway? You know, the bread, the meat sticks out like on the top.
Yes.
Just because the meat's not on top and the bottom doesn't mean that it's not a sandwich.
It's definitely a sandwich. Meat,
Yeah,
bread, sandwich.
yeah, yeah. And then you add some toppings like they go crazy. They add relish and mustard and different stuff, onions.
You know what? You are talking like a guy that can eat a lot before a fight. You're not talking like a guy that's like struggling to make the weight.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. I ate tortillas, steak, and eggs today, so I'm
Wow.
pretty happy.
Who has it better than Sebastian Fundora right now? He's got 10 days to prepare for a big time main event live on ppv.com where he's taking on Tszyu, 2 belts on the line, potential shot at Terence Crawford, the ultimate redemption story. Check it out March 30th on ppv.com. I hope you get those donkeys, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jan.
Fun interview with our guy Sebastian Fundora. Says he wants to buy a donkey, Chris. A donkey. 2 donkeys.
I've heard good things about donkeys as pets and farm friends. So
He's got 20 acres now, Sebastian.
there you go.
And he also says a hot
you get
dog.
more than 2 donkeys then.
He also says a hot dog is a sandwich. So we got the real hard-hitting stuff out of Fundora before he fights in the fight of his life. 2 donkeys and a hot dog is a sandwich. That's what I came away from. Appreciate Sebastian for joining us. So, Chris, this is the big moment here. We have voicemails now, guys. You can give us a call at any time. It goes right to our hotline. If you want to talk about life, relationships, things that bother you, boxing, anything, you can join us. For the most part,
talk about life and things that bother you, call Dan. Don't.
I didn't give him your personal number. This is the Inside Boxing Live hotline. I did make a greeting. I said, hey, this is Inside Boxing Live. Chris is not here, but Dan is here. But here's our first ever voicemail. Here it is.
What's up, guys? Drew from Jersey. First time, long time. You guys are the best. Quick question. We just saw Zepeda have just another sensational fight over the weekend. If somehow we got lucky enough to see him come to Newark on the 6th of July and fight Shakur Stevenson, how would he win that fight? Does he have any chance? Nobody's been able to solve the Shakur puzzle. Can Zepeda do it? Best of luck, fellas.
His question was Zepeda. Can he beat Shakur?
Great question. I love our fans. They're always very educated on the sweet science and the sport.
Drew from Jersey. It's our guy.
What's going on? And he's a Jersey guy, so that's awesome. That's our neighbors next door. I don't see it. I don't see how. I don't see Zepeda being able to beat Shakur. Too sharp. Too many openings. When you're so offensive that way, there's gonna be openings. Alexis Arguello, one of my favorite fighters, used to always say, every time you throw a punch, it leaves an opening, if not 2 or 3. So every time you let those hands come away from home, there's going to be an opportunity to get hit. Also, Zepeda you're the numbers guy. Was it 99 punches around? Is his average
over his last 10 fights.
Yeah, but that's because he gets himself into position to do that. Shakur is a master of range. He's not going to allow him to get to a position where he's going to be able to unload both hands like that. That, to me, is going to be the real issue, would be Shakur's he's the best judge of distance in the game today. So his ability to judge that distance and to be able to keep a guy like Zepeda from getting set into the range where he can let those hands go. The only way I could see it is if that Shakur just cannot get his respect at all and is not physically strong enough to deal with Zepeda. If Zepeda just turns out to be just a hulking 135-pounder and it's just way too strong and it's just walking through everything and being able to push and make the fight rough and still get himself in position to let those hands go, and Shakur just doesn't perform. But otherwise, I got Shakur winning that all day long.
Yeah, I think Shakur wins that. I think he shines in that fight. I think he picks him apart. It would be some fun moments.
Maybe even stop him, actually. There's going to be so many opportunities.
I think, I agree with that. I think, we could see that. Shakur.
I think it's a fun fight, though.
It's very
I like
fun.
that fight.
I don't think we get it July 6th. I think because of Shakur's contract situation, he's got one more fight on his deal with Top Rank, and from what I've heard, is he really wants to test free agency. So he can, I'm sure he's going to get a guy that will make him look great on July 6th, and then he'll go from there.
But is he though? Because Top Rank doesn't want to let him go looking great.
Well, I would love that.
What about Morataya?
If Shakur fights Raymond Morataya, I will crown the guy. I mean, that would be awesome fight. I think it would
matchup.
I don't like fans. Hardcore's no Morataya. Will that sell in Newark? I think he's going to sell in Newark regardless.
I don't think it matters.
I would love to see it. I would be shocked if that's it. I would love it. Top Rank. Risky fight. We'll see if Top Rank would do that. Here's the next voicemail. Hold on.
Hey, this is Louis Overhand, straight from the Bay Area. I just wanted to congratulate you guys for what you guys succeeded so far in, and it's only the beginning from now. So I just wanted to say I'm very proud of you guys. Even though I may not comment a lot, I'm very proud, and I'm always sitting and watching you guys all the time. I just want a quick hot take on the two big upcoming fights. Some big ones I've got the Fury versus Usyk and Bivol versus Benavidez. I just want to hear you guys' early predictions.
All right, it's Louis. So, did you see
Shout out
Fury?
to the Bay.
Louis from the Bay. Oh, Louis Overhand. Actually, he does comment a lot. I see him on YouTube all the time. Did you see Fury is in insane shape right now?
Yeah. I mean, I had it in my mind that he was really going to lock in for this one. When he locks in, he's dangerous.
Yeah, dude. And not only that, for the first time, Fury is no longer the betting favorite, according to the sports books. Usyk is the slight favorite, and they're basing it off of how bad Fury looked, Ngannou, and then how bad Ngannou looked against Joshua. The money shifted slightly, very slightly. I'm talking slight edge to Fury as the favorite. So if you are thinking that, Fury's going to have a virtuoso performance, you could make some money. It's not great odds, but for the first time since this fight was announced, Fury is the underdog versus Usyk.
I'm going to throw some money on Fury. I've always had Fury win in that fight.
Do it now.
Yeah, and I think he's going to win this fight too. It's still to this point. It'd be really hard for me to see Usyk winning this fight. I mean, the size difference, the ability, and like I said, when Tyson Fury is locked in, he's a very, very dangerous guy and very, very difficult to beat. So I got Fury.
Carl Froch has a really good YouTube channel. Crazy guy. And he said...
I've worked with him before.
He's nuts. He said that Fury used to, I wouldn't say throw, but he used to do feint 30 times around. Feint 30 times around, throw a 1-2, hold, control the fight. He said over his last couple of fights, feinting 4 or 5 times around. His legs aren't there anymore. Interested to see that. If that's the case, then, Usyk, I'm not saying Usyk's going to win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
I think it's going to be very competitive.
I can't wait. May 18th. Watch that on ppv.com. Let's go with Perry.
Hey, Dan, Chris. How's it going? It's Perry. Big fan of your show. I don't know about my hottest take, but my hottest question would be the Canelo Benavidez fight. I've been doing a lot of fight tape study on that fight, and I just constantly see Canelo being able to time Benavidez's rushes, particularly as Benavidez loops the right hand. What do you guys think? Love to chat more about it. Thanks.
Love that question.
Yeah.
Not just who's going to win, but he's studying tape, Perry.
I said we have the best, smartest fans in the world of boxing.
I'm glad he asked that. You know why, Chris? Okay, I want to hear your answer because we're talking about this fight a lot, and everyone's just thinks it's a foregone conclusion that Benavidez is just going to run through Canelo.
Yeah, I know. Paulie does that. Him and I argue about it all the time. He's just I think he kills him. He stops him. I'm like, I don't know, man. I can see Canelo winning that fight. There's a lot of opportunities for Canelo. Canelo at his best, man. He's such a sharp counterpuncher. He's got a good timing on his jab. He's so good at slowing down the pace, and he makes guys handcuff themselves. His defense is really good with his upper body movement. He makes you miss and fall off balance. He makes you miss and feel exposed. He makes you miss and then he counters. So he makes you handcuff yourself and keep your guns in the holster because of how good his defense and his counters are. And the guy hits hard. Even at 68, he is a tremendous puncher. So you got to be careful with a guy like him in front of him. Who makes you miss and makes you pay. And yeah, there's opportunities for the best version of Canelo Alvarez to take advantage of Benavidez, who hasn't been in with someone at that level yet. So yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's a great observation. But a lot of it just comes down to the age, man. What version of Canelo are we going to see? I think every fight from now on we're going to have that question, because there's no doubt about it. He is on the, like you said, the back nine. So we are in the twilight of the Canelo era.
He's 33 years old, a lot of rounds, a lot of mileage on the odometer. I'm not ready to write him off yet. Not ready to say he gets dominated. I mean, even the Bivol fight, he did lose. He had a few moments, not many, but
not many
he didn't get stopped. I'm not ready to say he's gonna lose that fight. I haven't really thought about it in terms of X's and O's yet, because we're not even close to that stage. We're still at the negotiations of what we talked about in the beginning. Yep, great question. Great voicemails. Everyone, you can call us whenever you want. I want to start doing these more on the show. So appreciate all the calls. Chris, before we say goodbye, there's not a lot of big fights this weekend. In fact, there's nothing really of note. There is a guy, though, fighting named Sonny Liston Ali.
Whoa.
You think his parents were fight fans?
Sonny Liston Ali. Yeesh. I was thinking recently, actually, when I saw this guy's name, and it made me think. I'm like, I wonder if we're gonna have a resurgence of the name Floyd in like 20 years. You know, think about how many Floyd fans there are.
Saul.
Yeah, Saul is another one. Like it's funny how
Gervonta.
certain people can spur on names for a period of time.
Tyson Fury, named after Mike Tyson.
There you go, boom, and he storybook ending made it to the top.
And you know he was a premature baby?
Did not know that.
Yeah, I used to watch Mike Tyson's Hot Boxing.
That's the biggest preemie I've ever seen.
Dude, insane. So he's fighting this weekend. Albert Bell is fighting on Triller TV pay-per-view versus Jonathan Romero, 10 rounds, junior lightweight.
I like Bell a lot. I called his last fight for OTX, and he looked phenomenal.
Is he not with Top Rank anymore?
No, he was let go a while ago, or he left. I don't know how they split, but they split at least a couple fights ago, because he's been fighting kind of like on the smaller circuit, and then the OTX came up, and this fight. So, but listen, he's very talented. He is slick. He's really tall for the weight class. He's finding his power late. So yeah, watch out for Albert Bell, man.
March 22nd, Rome, Italy. Chris, I think you should. I'm not saying get back in the ring because you haven't officially retired. You need to fight in Rome, Italy. Michael Magnesi is fighting Masanori Rikishi. 12 rounds, junior lightweights.
Paulie did that, after his Garcia fight. He took a little Rome, Italy tour and had a couple fights out there.
Chris's goodbye fight, not in Huntington.
Not in Huntington.
Rome. And on the undercard is Jessica Beluski versus Alessia Vintazia.
Great names. God.
This is amazing.
I love my Italians.
Probably the biggest fight of the weekend is on DAZN. Dalton Smith, 27-year-old, 15-0, 11 knockouts, domestic level, working his way up the ranks in Britain. One thing about the UK, one thing about Britain is they really know how to build up these domestic fights, and they kind of make these into something there. I think they have bigger, Matchroom has bigger, I would say, plans for Dalton Smith. He's fighting Jose Zepeda. Sean Zepeda.
Zepeda, Sean, poor guy, never won a world title, was always right there, just short of it, just shy of it. He's become the gatekeeper at this point. He had the Hitchinson's fight, which he didn't win a second of. Regis, who gave Regis a chance to get a world title again, and he took a beating. And
he beat the guy. Have you seen this Indian boxer who's been just signed to Jake Paul's MVP? He's been calling out Jake Paul. He's the most viral boxer in the world.
No.
He's a nut. The guy flew from India to Puerto Rico after Jake, challenged him. And according to BoxRec, Zepeda fought him and beat him like last year.
Zepeda knock him out?
I think it was a decision. I can't pull up. BoxRec is making me put my password in. I hate when they do that. Can they just let us have it for free, guys? Come on. That's some of the other fights. Speaking, Campbell Hatton, still doing it. Sandy Ryan versus Terry Harper.
He's been knocking people out lately. He's like
Campbell.
Yeah, he's doing the body shot stuff just like his pops. Like he's.
I root for the kid.
He's making something happen. I mean, listen, his dad's awesome. So.
Ricky Hatton's the man. I root for Campbell Hatton. I don't know what he'll become, but he's fighting. He's giving it his all. Sandy Ryan versus Terry Harper. Yeah, so
Terry Harper could fight.
It's a weekend of strange fights. If you have a significant other and you've been putting off date night, you've been putting off going out, this might be the weekend. Catch up on the fights on Sunday. That's what I'm going to do. I hope you have a great weekend, Chris. What do you got planned?
Man, just housework, dude. Being a homeowner, man, is always something to do.
I don't have a home, but I am building a new studio here. Okay. I got a desk. I got crazy lights.
Are you swinging hammers? Are you swinging hammers?
No.
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 Damn it.
I have a power drill, and I'm afraid of it.
Oh, that's another thing. You mentioned what else am I good at? I'm quite handy.
Yeah, so I want to see Instagram. I want to see some doodles, and then I want to see some of those pictures of you taking out a toilet.
Before and afters of pulling vanities out of the bathroom, yeah.
All right, guys. Monday, we're back. It's fight week. We're giving away a pay-per-view every single day next week. Courtesy of ppv.com, because it is Tszyu-Fundora fight week. We'll be back Monday with a new episode. Protect yourselves at all times. Keep your hands up at all times. Let's go to Rome, Italy. Good night.